Okay, today we will look forward FPI. FPI, performance measurement. Performance measurement. This is one of the most important chapter today and next two classes. That is, I'm going to conduct the consecutive 3 classes, which is very much important for you guys who are going to sit for the exam in June session, because from this segment you guys can expect to have one question of 20 marks. Clear? But the thing is, if the question is 20 marks question, within these 20 marks, 30% marks will be distributed for calculation purpose. Whatever the things you gonna calculate, depend upon that calculation. If the calculation is right, in that case you can expect to have 30% marks. So 30% of 20 is how much? 6 marks. 6 marks if you calculate the right things. And 70% marks depend upon the elaborate discussion. So focus on discussion. The discussion I'm going to do in these classes and next 2 classes. Clear? Okay. So performance measurement, right? Performance measurement. What do you mean by this? Being a business people, you always have to deal with the uncertain, right? Future means uncertain. And in the case of business, you have to make decision, you have to make different kinds of plan for future, right? Then, end of the plan, end of the budget, you have to do the original activity, right? So, end of the period for control purpose means end of the period, you have to evaluate your performance in comparison to the budget or plan set previously or earlier. Whether you are on the right track or whether there is any kinds of adverse effect is there. Right? So, performance measurement means measuring or evaluating the performance, actual performance in comparison to the budget set earlier or plan set earlier. By comparing these two things, comparing the actual with the budget, you can evaluate your performance, and if any necessary step required or any changes required, the organization can go for that. Clear? So that is all about performance measurement. Now the fact is, how this performance measurement or how you can compare your actual performance with the budget or plan. There are 2 different ways how you can measure or evaluate your performance. One is financial performance indicators, FPI, which is called financial performance indicators, and another is NFPI, non-financial performance indicators. And it is very much usual feature that in each and every question regarding FPI, the performance measurement question comes in. So you can evaluate your performance through 2 different ways. One is financially, another is non-financial performance indicators. Just for example, financial performance indicators. By hearing the name, it is very much clear that here we try to measure the actual performance with the budget depend upon some financial ratios. It is very much important. The ratios are previously set, or even standard ratios are previously set, or you can say, suppose you are in pen industry, you are the manufacturer of a kind of pen industry. So for pen industry, some standard ratios may be there, so you can compare your performance with that standard. So we'll go for that level. But here ratios are very much important, and you can easily memorize the ratio, how you can calculate that. But calculation is only 30 marks. So you have to focus on the elaborate discussion of the ratios. Clear? Okay. So one is FPI, financial performance indicators. Another is non-financial performance indicators. Today's business world is very much competitive. So if you want to survive in the market, you have to make some loyal relationship with your customers. If you are being loyal, if you can make positive relationship with your customer, only then you can expect to survive long. So for short period of time, suppose if you are thinking about 1 year, in that case you can go for measuring the financial performance indicators. That is, within 1 year, what will be my expected profit? But if you want to survive in the market, you have to make positive relationship with the customer. That is, if you are being loyal with your customer, the customer will go with you for a long period of time. So, as for example, in FPI, customers complain. Today's business always maintains a specific department, you can say, whose main activity is to respond the customer complaint as early as possible. Why? Here the fact is, business organization is providing importance to its customer. If the customers feel themselves important, then it is obvious that they will be loyal and they will retain in the business for a long period of time. Clear? So we'll discuss different kinds of NFPs as well. So as a whole, we can measure our performance through financial performance indicators, at the same time non-financial performance indicators. And it is obvious that if you are to survive in the market for a long period of time, when you are taking decision for a long period of time, your NFPIs is much more important than your FPI. Because financial performance indicators focus on short period of time performance, short-term performance, whereas NFPI focus how we can survive long. That is, NFPIs actually focus for long period of time. Okay. So today, according to your book, today we'll go through the financial performance indicators. Financial performance indicators. I cannot go upward than this level because my arms is there, huge amount of pain in my arms. So financial performance indicators. In the case of financial performance indicators, we have already discussed, that is, we try to evaluate our performance through some financial ratios. So initially we will discuss about the profitability ratios. Profitability ratios. In this case, we will discuss about gross profit margin, net profit margin, and return on capital employed. Clear? So according to your book, first of all, think about the gross profit margin and net profit margin, how you can evaluate your performance through these two different ratios. Number one, that is gross profit margin. Gross profit margin. What do you mean by this? Margin. Suppose, as for example, margin is 20%. Your gross profit margin is 20%. It has a specific meaning. The meaning is, gross profit margin means gross profit to sell into 100. So if it is 20%, what does it mean? That is, in every $100 of sale, you are generating $20 gross profit. Clear? So it is very much easy to memorize this. But the fact is, we have to make ourselves clear about the representation of this. What this 20% represent. So So the thing is 20% means within $100 of sale, each $100 of sale you are generating $20 as a kind of gross profit, right? Now, if you think about the income statement, that is sale minus cost of sale equal to gross profit. From the gross profit, you have to deduct all kinds of operating expenses. It will provide you the net profit before interest and tax, PBIT you can say. So when you are measuring the gross profit margin, right? Gross profit margin means gross profit to sell. Now the thing is, suppose company A and company B. Company A's gross profit is 20% and B's gross profit margin is 25%. A's profit margin is 20, whereas B's profit margin is 25%. So for a short period, narrowly, when you are elaborately discuss these things, what does it mean? In this company generates $20 profit per $100 of sale, whereas this company generating $25 profit per $100 of sale. So you can say B is performing well, right? But this is not feasible. Why? Because cost of sale, the cost structure of one company and the cost structure of another company will never be the same. Clear? So it's the kind of question. If company B's gross profit margin is more than A, that means B is performing well, not that. Clear? So why we are calculating gross profit margin or what it represents? We are calculating gross profit margin to find out or to calculate the trend analysis of a specific company. Suppose your company is a company who is manufacturing pen. So when you are calculating gross profit for each and every year, then you can compare your performance with the last year performance. As for example, last year your gross profit margin was 20%. Now your gross profit margin in current year is 25%. So it can be comparable. And through this comparison, you can say you are performing much more better than in comparison to last year. Why? Because in current year you are generating $25 profit, whereas in the last year you are generating $20 profit. And it represents ultimately that you are efficient in control over the cost of sale. That is, when you have the control over the cost of sale, it is obvious that your gross profit margin will increase. Clear? So gross profit margin can be used for trend analysis of an individual company. It cannot be used for comparing between two different companies. Clear discussion? Now, what do we mean by net profit margin? Net profit margin is, this is net profit margin divided by sale into 100. Suppose it is 20%. Just like the gross profit margin, through net profit margin you cannot compare two different companies, but you can calculate the trend analysis of your own company. And then you can evaluate your performance in comparison to the last year and current year. The fact is, net profit margin, suppose this year 25% in comparison to last year 25%. What does it mean? It means that is you are more efficient in control over the operating level of expenses, administrative expenses, sales and distribution, different kinds of operating expenses. If you are efficient in maintaining those costs, in that case you can expect higher net profit margin in compared to last year. Clear? So the ultimate thing is we have to find gross profit and net profit margin only for your own purpose. Through the trend analysis, we can evaluate the industry's performance, but it cannot be used to evaluate two different companies. Okay. Then another thing is ROC. ROC, return on capital employed. Profit before interest and tax. You can say this is net profit, or this is also called operating profit, divided by capital employed. Suppose this is 20%. What does it do? Your ROC, return on capital employed, is 20%. That means in a certain financial year, your profit before interest and tax and capital employed, then you have to find it according to percentage. So 20% means to generate $20 profit before interest and tax, you have to invest $100. Or you can say by investing $100 per $100, you are generating $20 as a kind of profit before interest and tax. Here, just like the gross profit margin and net profit margin, if two different companies cannot be evaluated according to their ROC. But the same company under same industry can be evaluated according to their ROC, return on capital employed. Now the fact is, what do you mean by this capital employed? This capital employed means that is asset minus current liability. Asset, so different component can be provided. From the component you have to pick up the right one. So first of all, this capital employed may be asset, total asset minus current liability, or you can say capital plus long-term liability. See, the thing is same. Total asset minus current liability, or capital plus long-term liability. That is capital employed. Right? This ROC is required for another purpose. As for example, suppose your ROC is 15%. Your company's ROC is 15%. That means through this calculation, you are expecting $15 return by investing per $100 investment, or by investing in per $100 in the capital employed, right? Now the fact is, now if you want to borrow some specific amount of money in doing the business, businessman have to borrow something, borrow the finance. That means businessman have to finance his capital, and this finance actually comes from bank borrowings, right? Bank borrowings, share, etc., etc. We will discuss later on. Initially, just think an example. Think about the bank. That is, suppose in our business we want to build up the capital financing through borrowing from the bank, right? So here, when you step forward to borrow any amount from the bank will charge on it. Suppose, as for example, bank charge is 16%. In that case, we will not go for that, because this 16% means for per $100 of borrowings you have to provide $16 as a kind of expense, interest. Whereas when you are investing this money in your business is providing $15 return. So it is a kind of loss. So by comparing, when you have the ROC, return on capital employed, by using the ROC you can go for financing decision also. Clear? Then according to your view, that is earning per share and cost sales ratios. See, another thing is that is cost to sales ratio. See, you can go for calculating different types of cost, right? See, as for example, direct material to sell, you can find out direct labor to sell, or even you can find out administrative expense to sell, distribution expense to sell. The thing is, you can find out different types of cost to sales ratio. Even it can be calculated cost to unit, per unit cost, right? But what does it represent? If direct material to sales or direct labor to sales, this ratio increases, what does it represent? It represents that in doing per dollar of sale, your direct material and direct labor cost is more than previous. That's why this ratio increases. At the same time, administrative expense to sell, distribution expense to sell. If these ratios goes up, what does it mean? It means that now doing per dollar of sale, you are spending more in these kinds of expenses, cost, right? So when these ratios increases, these are the part of cost of sale. So when these ratios are increasing, you can say, or you can expect your gross profit margin is go down. Can you find out the relationship? That is, if this direct material and direct labor to sales, these ratios goes up, that means now you have to spend more per dollar of sale in the case of cost of sales. So when cost of sales goes up, it is obvious that it will reduce the gross profit. So when these cost ratios goes up, it is normal and obvious that the company's gross profit margin is go down. Administrative expense and distribution expense, these are the part which is deducted from the gross profit to find out the net profit. So if these cost ratios goes up, it is obvious that your net profit margin will go down. Clear? So you can find out the cost to sales ratio as well. Then I'm just going according to your group. Clear? Discussion is totally different. Then earning per share, EPS, earning per share. Organization can build up its capital structure by two different sources of finance. One is debt capital, another is equity capital. See, suppose it's a kind of organization, right? This is equity, this is debt. Organization need capital. To operate the business, organization need capital. Now the fact is how this capital can be financed. Number one, if the company is stock exchange and listed company, in that case it can issue share, number of different kinds of shares, and through the shares it can build up the capital structure. This is called equity capital. On the other hand, it can borrow the money from the bank, or it can borrow from different sources, loan notes, debentures, etc., etc. We'll discuss later on. So which are called debt capital. So as a whole, these are the two different sources how the company can go for build up the capital structure, right? Now equity capital. Company is allotting different kinds of common share as well as preference share. There are two different kinds of share. One is equity share or you can say common share. Another is preference share. For normal scenario, or normal sense is that whatever the retained earning, whatever the profit before interest and tax of a company. Initially, the company have to provide interest and then corporation tax. Interest, company is bound to provide the interest to the debt holder, either it commit profit or loss. So company is bound to do that. So interest must be provided, either you commit profit or loss. Suppose for our discussion, suppose your company is committing some specific kind of profit. From this profit, you have to provide interest first. Then you have to provide corporation tax. Then, end of the interest and tax, you have to provide dividend to the preference shareholders first. That's why their name is preference share. That means in distributing the dividend, they are prioritized in comparison to the common shareholders. Right? So first of all, you have to provide dividend to the preferred shareholders. Then whatever the amount remained after providing interest, tax and preferred dividend, whatever the amount is there, that is called, that is a kind of thing, that is a kind of amount which can be provided to the common shareholders. So it is saying that is profit attributable to the common shareholder. But the fact is, with the discretionary power of the board of director decide how much within this attributable profit will be distributed in between the shareholders, not the total. So when you are calculating EPS, earning per share, we are talking about how much attributable profit is there available. Attributable profit available for each individual common share, or you can say equity share. So how can you do that? That is, EPS is profit attributable to the common shareholders divided by number of share. Suppose the thing is, as for example, this is $4 per. But it doesn't mean that the shareholders will be provided $4. If the profit attributable to shareholder divided by number of share is $4, it doesn't mean that the shareholders is providing $4. The fact is, management make available $4 for each individual share. But end of the day, management actually decide, suppose $2 per share will be provided. So the thing is, initially, the fact is initially, sorry, suppose your profit is $100. You are providing interest, suppose $40. That means 60 is divided. Then you have to provide corporation tax. Suppose corporation tax is $10. That is $50. Then you have to provide the dividend to the preferred shareholder. And preferred shareholder dividend is normally fixed. Suppose, as for example, this is $20. So after providing interest, tax and preferred dividend, still you have $30. This $30 is called profit attributable to the common shareholder. That means you can provide this $30 to the common shareholder. But end of the day, it is decided by the management. Suppose, as for example, management decided that $20 will be distributed to the common shareholder, because common shareholder are not provided fixed amount, they are provided different amount, and $10 will be retained within the business, which is called retained profit. So the fact is, when you are calculating the EPS, you are dividing this $30 by, suppose as for example your share number of shares is 10, so $3. So it doesn't mean that this $3 is provided to the shareholder. It is attributable, it can be provided, but actually provided less than that. Clear? And this is the disadvantage. So the thing is EPS, earning per share. It is a kind of signal for the investors. If your company want to allot new kinds of share, the investor who are potential investor, first of all, they focus on your EPS, earning per share, whether your EPS is steady, stable, or different. That's why to motivate the investor, company needs to provide a stable amount of dividend to the common shareholders. Here, this is all about EPS, earning per share. Then there is a important relationship. Relationship is cost to sales ratio we have already discussed. That is we have already discussed ROC. ROC was profit before interest and tax divided by capital employed. If you multiply these things by sales, the value will not be changed. Value will remain the same, right? Because numerator and both denominator are multiplied by the same amount, but it has a different meaning. Profit before interest and tax divided by sale into sale divided by capital employed, right? We can write down this, the same thing. This profit before interest and tax divided by sale, this is called net profit margin. Net profit margin we have already discussed. And this is asset turnover ratio, sales divided by capital employed. Asset turnover ratio. So you can also find out return on capital employed equal to net profit margin into asset turnover ratio. So if any two component is there, you can find out the another component, then you can elaborately discuss about that. Clear? So this is one of the important ratio. Then according to your book, another important ratio is gearing. Gearing ratio, gearing. কতক্ষণ ক্লাস হচ্ছে দেখো তো? 33 মিনিট। Gearing ratio was if risk business risk. Gearing. First of all, try to make yourself clear what do you mean by gearing. Gearing, what does it mean? Gearing means we have already discussed to build up the capital structure. We can go for equity as well as debt. When you are building the equity capital, in that case, you can decide by on your own whether the dividend should be provided. But in the case of debt, company is bound to provide interest against that, right? And another thing is for discussion. This is not in your syllabus, but for discussion, I'm just providing. Cost of equity, which is called K, and cost of debt, which is called KD. Normally, K is greater than KD. K means cost of equity. That means the equity shareholders required rate of return. And we have already discussed, they are provided end of the slice, right? First, interest is provided, tax is provided, preference dividends provided, then if anything remain, that will be provided to the shareholder, right? So that's why, as they are more vulnerable in comparison to the other payments, their requirement is more. It is normal scenario by the business. That is, if any return is risky, required rate of return will obviously increase. That's why normally K is greater than KD. So, as a whole, company want to build up the capital structure through E and debt. But the fact is, cost of debt is less than cost of equity. That's why company try to make some specific capital structure where the company's total cost, which is called WACC, weighted average cost of capital, we will discuss in F9. As a whole, the average cost of the company will lower. So the fact is gearing. Gearing means the extent which company is depending on debt. Hey. Gearing. So, gearing represent, that is the extent to which the company is depending on debt to build up its capital structure. So, if you are saying this company is heavily geared, what does it mean? Heavily geared means that company is building its capital, or that company is depending heavily on debt rather than equity. That's why gearing is low. If gearing is less, what does it mean? That means here the company is building its capital through equity, less than equity, then debt. That's why gearing is less. Clear? So gearing means the extent on which the company is depending to build up its capital structure through debt. Clear? Okay. So depend upon this gearing, that means whether you are building your capital through debt or equity. Depend upon this gearing. Gearing is clear? Depend upon this. There are two different types of gearing. One is financial gearing, which measure financial risk. Another is operating gearing, which measure business risk. What does it mean? Financial gearing, or you can say financial risk. The financial gearing actually measure, দেখা যায় এখানে, debt by equity plus debt into 100. Suppose, as for example, this is 30%. Financial gearing represent within your total capital what percentage is built up through debt. Suppose this is 30%. What does it mean? If your capital is $100, within that $100, $30 is debt. Clear? Now the thing is, if you are gearing more means that is you are building up your capital structure by using more debt. Suppose this is 40%. Initially it was 30%, now it is 40%. That means by depending more on debt, you are building your capital structure. Right? Why you are very much interested to build up your capital structure through debt? Because cost of debt is less than cost of equity. We have already discussed it. Right? So that's why companies always try to depend upon the lesser cost finance. But it is riskier. Why riskier? In the case of equity, company is not bound to provide dividend each and every year. But when the company is building up its capital structure through debt, company is bound to provide interest each and every year. That means as you are increasing your financial gearing, that means as you are more depending to build up the capital structure by using debt, it is more riskier for you. Why? Because each and every year you are increasing your interest portion that must have to provide to the debt holder. Right? So, after providing the interest, it may be possible there will not be enough money to distribute to the normal shareholders. Even it may also possible that if you are bound or if you are heavily burdened on debt, after providing the interest against the debt, there may not be that much amount which can be used for further or which can be used in business. Or even it may be also possible, as you are gearing more, that means you are borrowing more. If you need further capital, it may be possible no financial institution will be eager to provide you further debt because you are already heavily geared. That's why this is called financial risk. Clear? Okay. Then another is operating gearing, or you can say business risk. Business risk means the risk of committing lesser profit, even committing loss as well. That is all about business risk. Business risk means if you are doing a kind of business, end of the day it may be possible the business will be committing heavy less amount of profit or it may commit loss. That is business risk. That is probability of committing loss. Clear? So that is, you can find out that is profit. This gearing can be calculated by contribution by profit before interest and tax. PBIT. See, now the thing is, if this contribution, what do you mean by contribution? Contribution means from the sales you have to deduct all kinds of variable cost. That is contribution. And profit before interest and tax means that is from the contribution of when you are deducting all kinds of fixed cost. That is actually profit before interest and tax. Clear? Now the thing is, if the contribution, this contribution is high and PBIT is low. See, if the contribution is high and PBIT is low, that means if there is a huge difference between these two things, your operating gearing will be more, right? When operating gearing is more, how this can be happened? Operating gearing can be more when your contribution is high than your PBIT, right? And it represents business risk. What is business risk? That is your contribution and profit before interest and tax. What is the difference between these two? When you are deducting fixed cost from the contribution, then that will provide you the profit before interest and tax. So contribution is high, but profit before interest and tax is very much low. Why? Because there is huge amount of fixed cost activated. But if these two things are just like the same means fixed cost is not that much bigger, right? So after deducting the fixed cost from the contribution, if contribution is much more high than the profit before interest and tax, it represents there is a huge amount of fixed cost. And huge amount of fixed cost means you are heavily dependent upon borrowings. And fixed cost is huge means after providing the interest is a kind of fixed cost. After providing the fixed cost, it may be possible that is your business will commit any kinds of profit, there may be loss. So that's why this operating gearing measure business risk. Clear? On the other hand, if the contribution and the profit before interest and tax is just like the same means here fixed cost is not that much. Fixed cost is very much minimal. That's why both are the same. So when this operating gearing listen means lesser amount of fixed cost. And lesser amount of fixed cost means after distributing the fixed cost, still there may be much more to be distributed from the shareholders. Clear? So these are the two different gearing ratio. Discussion, Khulna. Do you guys understand the discussion? So this discussion is very much important. Clear? Okay. Then another thing is liquidity ratio. Liquidity ratio. In this segment, we will discuss two different ratios. One is quick ratio, another is current ratio. What does it mean, liquidity? In several time period, business needs liquid amount to meet up its short-term liability. We have discussed there are two kinds of liability, right? Short-term liability and long-term liability. Normally, you can think about the trade payable, right? You have to continuously meet up your trade payable. Okay. Liquidity means your company's strength to meet up the current obligation through the current asset. Liquidity represents the strength of a company to meet up its current obligation. That means how strong the company's position is to meet up its current obligation. The fact is, current ratio, current asset to current liability. Here we will not calculate this in percentage. We just use the ratios, and this is 2:1. It is feasible normally. 2:1 means to settle down the current liability, you have 2 times more current asset. You know the current asset? Cash, receivable, right? Cash, receivable, these are the current asset. So to meet up the current obligation, you have 2 times more current asset. So it is feasible. Another is quick ratio. Quick ratio means current asset divided by current liability, but here we deduct the inventory, because current asset means all those kinds of assets which are easily cash convertible, right? So within the current asset, we discuss cash is a current asset, inventory is a current asset, trade receivable is a current asset. But normally, depend upon the criteria, some inventory are such that which are not easily cash convertible. That's why we deduct the inventory from the current asset. And this ratio is 1:1 is favorable. But depend upon the business criteria or different types of business, this ratio may be different. Clear? But as a whole, you can say current ratio is 2. If your current asset is 2 times more than the current liability, that is feasible. That is good. If your current asset minus inventory to current liability is 1:1, this is good. But depend upon the criteria of the business. As for example, think about the shopkeeper just near to your house, and think about the departmental store. Departmental store provide any kinds of debt, any kinds of credit. Baki to deয়? দিবে না. But the shop near to your house, they always extend credit, right? So depend upon the criteria of the business, this ratio may be different. Okay, enough for today. I will discuss the next segment in next class. Okay, thank you.